Hey everyone, Clint here from Oak and Iron Outdoors. To me, accuracy is king as a bow hunter, and today I want to share with you 5 tips that have helped me as a bow hunter become much more accurate in the deer woods. Let's go over that right now. The one thing I do take pride in is my ability to shoot deer with very good shots, at least hit them where I'm aiming. And I've taken pride in my accuracy over the years. I felt like it's just always kind of come natural to me, but there's some things that I've had to change over the years, and these little changes are these tips that I'm going to share with you today. And hopefully, some of you folks at home can take away something from this video, and that's my goal. But just to keep the video straight today, I'm going to call it shooting at game with a bow hunting, and essentially shooting at a regular target with a bow, and for target shooting purposes only, archery. Tip number 1, and that's releasing the arrow on the exhale. Essentially, you pull your bow back, inhale through your nose, and then as you blow out through your mouth slowly on the exhale, towards the end of the exhale, you release the arrow. And I believe it does 2 things. The first thing it does is when you breathe properly, it allows a proper amount of oxygen into your blood and essentially into your brain, keeps your nerves more calm, and it creates a little bit of a timing effect for you. It reduces intercostal pressure, or essentially pressure in the diaphragm, and it just allows more of a relaxed way of shooting. Now, this does take a little bit of practice because you're timing this on the end of the shot cycle, the draw cycle. And if you get to the very end where you exhale all the way out and you still feel like you don't have the pin where you want it, you have to start that process all over again, going into the nose and then back out. But it can be done very quickly. Now, with that being said, this is something that does take practice. Believe it or not, it's not as easy as it may seem or look, but with practice, it just becomes natural. At least it's very natural for me. I don't even think about it anymore. I just shoot on that back end of the exhale, somewhere right around maybe that 50% mark, almost all the way to the 80 or 90% of that fully exhale component. If I get to that very end, I do feel like I need to take a breath again, and then I'll just start that process all over again and shoot again. But tip number 1 is to end up shooting your bow on the end of the exhale. The second tip is essentially just bringing that pin in line with the target and then releasing as soon as that pin goes directly over that spot on spot. Now, I know that some people will do the same thing, and they start from up here and they bring it down or bring the pin down and then they release it. I actually do the opposite. I start below, and that way I can utilize gravity kind of like a brake and bring it up, and then once that pin comes up over the target, I release that arrow and let my brain essentially do the work for me. And what I mean by that is I just use it more as a reaction shot. I don't really think about it. My brain has just gotten used to over time that when that pin is in that straight line and it hits that little spot on spot that I'm looking at, whether it be on the archery target or on the deer that I pick out personally, I release that arrow at that time, like I said, without thinking about it. Now, the reason I go from down to up and not from up to down is because for me, I don't want that bow to continue travel, and I can stop it much better if I'm going against gravity than if I'm going with gravity. The other thing is when I go from down to up, that deer is essentially, I know exactly where that heart lung area is and looking for that spot on spot because I can see it completely as I go up. This does take practice. You're definitely going to have to work on this accuracy component, but it does, at least for me, help tremendously with my accuracy as far as taking animals with the bow. Now, this is going to lead to my third tip, and this is more of a personal one for me. If I had one issue that I had to work on my entire life with the bow, is keeping that pin on the target after I shoot. So even when I was younger, I had this issue where when I would shoot, I would just drop that bow slightly and catch tilting my head over to see where the arrow went. And matter of fact, when lighted nocks first came out, I remember using them, and it actually made me a worse shot because I would do just that. Then I knew I could see my arrow because of the lighted nocks, and I would just naturally want to pull that bow away and take a look at that arrow. And I had to really concentrate and think to myself, do not do that. Do not do that. Just take that pin. Don't worry about looking at the deer. Just know where that pin hits that spot on spot, and then continue to hold that pin on that spot on spot, and don't drop that bow until at least 3 or 4 seconds after. And that's really helped me out tremendously. And you know, as much as I would love to use lighted nocks still, I just don't use them for that sake. Tip number 4, and you know, this is something I think almost everybody should do, but that is to videotape your shot cycle. It's kind of funny. I would go and I'd watch friends and family shoot their bows, and working in personal training and physical therapy, you get to know anatomy very well. You get to know what looks like the proper draw and shot cycle, and you can make those critiques very easily and help family and friends out, which I've done. But when I do it, and since I'm not seeing a mirror technically, I can't tell sometimes where everything is in place. And I'm gonna be honest with you, because I'm a bigger guy and I used to lift a lot of weights, a lot of heavy weights. I'm kind of an ogre, and I don't have the greatest flexibility. So when I shoot, I just got this stiffness to me, and I want to be like some of you skinnier guys out there that have that nice flow, and I've been working on that a little bit more. But videotape yourself. You know, most of us all have these cell phones that we can tape ourselves. Tape yourself in many different directions to take your videos and send them to some family and friends, and have them critique and have them look at your shot cycle, your draw cycle, and see how it looks to them. And you know, they sometimes can provide really valuable feedback, and those are little things that you can work on. The next tip is going to revolve around holding that string back. This is, I think, the biggest difference between what I'm going to say are bow hunters and archers. And I don't mean to take away from either side, but as bow hunters, just due to the deer, how they present themselves, in cases for myself, I like to have that front shoulder forward, so that scapula is out of the way, so I can shoot the vitals. There are times where we have to hold that string back and hold it for a longer period of time. And the longer we have to hold that string back, the more shaky we get. And that's because these muscles tend to get weak and tired very quickly over time. So one of the best ways to address that is to work on eccentric exercises. You can hold that bow back longer and become more accurate and release that arrow when you want to release it, not because your muscles essentially are tired. Now, over time, they're going to get tired no matter what, but working on those eccentric muscles really makes a big difference. So let's go over to that weight room right now. So what is an eccentric exercise? The best way to explain it is just have me show you right here. I'm going to grab the handles here of the mid-row machine, and I am going to roll back first. That's going to be the concentric motion, and then going back 7 seconds is what I like to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is the eccentric motion of the exercise. Now you can apply this literally to every rep. So I will actually apply it to every rep of the set that I do. Some people just like to add it to the last rep of every set they do. This is also called a negative. So you might hear some people call it a negative. The true terminology is eccentric motion, and it just helps protect that shoulder. And then once again, I can hold that string back way longer, and it actually even makes that draw cycle much easier. Once you follow me, we're gonna head on over to another cable machine. I'm gonna show you external rotation. Once again, adding that eccentric exercise or time under tension. So folks, I have a cable here with the handle, and I am going to perform external rotation. I'm going to add the 2-second concentric motion, and we're gonna go 7 seconds back. The purpose of external rotation is to really help strengthen up those rotator cuff muscles, and to look just like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now folks, this is a great exercise to help with the strengthening of the rotator cuff, and then to be able to hold, once again, that bowstring back longer. Just remember, if you're going to perform eccentric exercises, you're going to have to lighten the load up. You're just adding that extra time under tension. You're probably adding another 45 seconds to the entire set because you are working it this much slower. So you have to go lighter. The other thing is the shoulders, they are very vulnerable particular types of injuries, especially even in the weight room. So you have to be very careful with that. And when I do eccentric exercises, everything gets lightened up on whatever I'm doing, just because I don't want that extra stress essentially on the shoulder due to the heavy weights. And that's not what those muscles are designed for. They're not really designed to push heavy objects. They're designed to be stabilizers, and they are designed for endurance. And that's why the eccentric exercises are awesome to add into your archery training program. Now, the last tip is essentially a bonus tip, a mental tip, if you want to call it that. But I have a nonchalant attitude when it comes to shooting at bigger bucks. And, you know, I always kind of say to the good Lord, hey, you know where this arrow is going to go. You already know ahead of time. I've done my work. I've done my practice. I prepped. Everything is as right as I can get it right now. And I'm going to release this arrow. And you know where it's going to go. The trust in the man upstairs seems to always put the arrow where I'm aiming. I've always felt that I've stayed fairly calm because of that thought process. Now, after I release the arrow, it's a whole different story. Then my heart just goes through the roof, and I get, you know, that whole clammy feeling, and holy cow, I'm not feeling the greatest because I got butterflies in my stomach. But that's just always been the way it's worked for me, shooting my bow. And yeah, if you want to call it a nonchalant attitude, or just trusting in the man upstairs where your arrow is going to go because you've put the time in, the practice in, the work in, and you're trusting him and yourself in regards to where that arrow is going to go. Thank you for watching today's episode. Hopefully one of these tips, or if not all of them, can help you getting that buck in the back of the truck and make you a better shot out in the deer woods. If you don't mind, please hit that subscribe button. And until next time, Clint from Oak and Iron Outdoors.